We are going to wrap before we go to roundtables today by having a short conversation with an old buddy of mine, Rich Lesperance, who is the CMO at Tecovas, which is a brand that enjoys one of the highest brand loyalty ratings of any D2C. I first met Rich nearly a decade ago when he ran digital and e-commerce at Walgreens. He stood up there and did a keynote for us when he was suffering with food poisoning. He is my hero ever since. And since then, he's also led marketing in a number of D2Cs. Vivid Seats, Swap.com, Grubhub, and he goes back to the early days, the original D2C juggernaut of Dell. Welcome, Rich. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to see you again, Steve.
Good to see you. Thanks. So you're leading Tecovas, which is a handmade boot brand that started in 2015 in Austin, now a range of apparel. We're running an ad giving people a little sense of what Tecovas looks like and what those beautiful handmade boots look like. But you also enjoy a net promote score of 92, which I think most brands attending here would envy. What does such brand love translate into in business terms? What are the key KPIs that you think are impacted by that level of brand loyalty?
So the company was started only 5 years ago, and a little bit about the boot space. A lot of the cowboy boot brands that are out there were founded in the 1800s. So Tecovas came along to create a digital-first brand, highly curated. We got some of the products here. Here's my, this is called the Cartwright. Everything here is made by artisans that go back centuries, and they've handed down these techniques, more than 200 steps, by hand go into making a single boot. And the problem is that a lot of these are overpriced. So the net promoter score, which is crazy high, and a big reason I joined the company recently, it is really, I think, a reflection of creating an incredibly high quality product and cutting out the middleman. It's funny you mentioned Dell. 20 years ago, I was at Dell, and that was kind of the premise of Dell. Cutting out the middleman and giving people the kind of the honest, price for an honest product, which plays really well with the sort of the, Texas, I think, spirit of, honest goods and honest prices. And, the way that shows up in the business metrics is really organic traffic, word of mouth referrals. The awareness that our company has is pretty great, in spite of the fact that it literally 5 years ago, the idea of Tecovas was in one man's head. And we've never done a Super Bowl ad to get there.
So what does the media plan look like? When you have that kind of brand loyalty, that kind of word of mouth, how does that figure into the media plan that you construct around that?
Well, for a digital first brand, the media plan is, surprisingly robust around offline. I mean, it's really a full stack marketing role for me. We have a great brand story to tell. And I think you know me, Steve, well enough to know a lot of my background is deep on the performance side. I sort of came up from a management consulting, numbers nerd sort of background. And where we are, though, is, there's a lot of limitations, I think, to the ability to sell emotion through, really like nose to the grindstone performance media. And that is, certainly true in fashion. We're selling a beautiful product. People want to touch it and feel it as much as possible. And we do have 8 stores, and we're expanding our retail footprint, but also through video and through storytelling online. So social is great for that, and we do a lot online with video, but we also do TV ads and everything in between. So it's been, I'd say, a pretty well-rounded approach.
Let's look at a little bit of that. We've got a visual that gives you a sense of, and walk us through. Tell us what the pitch is. Let's bring up the slide of Tecovas ad.
All right, so this is a magazine ad, as I talked about. Being the honest to goodness, truthful boot brand out there. What I love about it is how much white space there is on this ad. I think a lot of the job of marketers is to get out of the way when the product is awesome, and to amplify it. You don't need a lot of fancy language and proof points. It's simply than you would spend anywhere else. And which incidentally, you know, is interesting about boots. All the best cowboy boots in the world are made in León, Mexico by these same families that have handed down the trade over the years. But our boots fit better and feel better. There's sort of a mythology in the industry that, you know, a good pair of boots takes months to break into. And so we really redesigned it from the ground up so that it's like, for me, it's like putting on a pair of slippers. It's amazing. They immediately feel great. And that's what everyone talks about. So we try to get out of the way of ourselves, and we want to connect to people with this sort of hard-hitting truth. And I think the other message that you see from us a lot is, you know, why do people wear cowboy boots? They wear them for confidence. We're selling confidence. We're selling, you know, opportunity. We're selling a chance for you to, you know, go out in the world. And I think right now that's maybe more virtual than other times. But actually, you know, it's a great time to get outdoors. And a lot of these things we sell to people both in the cities and the suburbs and out in the country. It's really, for me, it's great because I get to be over 6 feet tall when I wear a pair of my Tecovas boots. So.
Let's look at a video clip that gives us a sense of how you're pitching this. And you mentioned a lot on focus on offline.
Yeah, so I'll just explain what this is here. This is an Instagram video, so no sound, but we put this out to build some hype before the launch of our Python snake boot in June. And, you know, in spite of everything going on in the world right now and the economy and concerns, this boot just took off. It sold out in hours. This was an example where we were able to really harness the power of our fans on social media. So we have 2 Facebook groups. We have a private group and a public one. Our Facebook insiders are kind of top customers who give feedback and are really involved in the company. And they were invited to come to the store before it was publicly launched and actually could reserve their boots ahead of time, and then generated tons of content that they shared for this launch. So we really built a hype machine with that. And then we also have a Facebook
special relationship with these. You have a different relationship with these social influencers than I think most brands do. You're not just tossing out a lot of content to them. You're involving them in a very different way. I think that's worth going into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think in our industry, authenticity is key. And, you know, paying homage to the past, being respectful of tradition while creating this digital first modern version that people enjoy. You know, most stores that you shop in for boots are just like cluttered, very kind of, you know, last century. And if you go to Tecovas.com, you just see this sort of curated look. You know, every boot has a name. I mentioned these are called the Cartwright. This one is called the Shane. You know, and we just want to make it easy and simple. And again, back to that print ad, it's kind of a no BS message about quality and value. No gimmicks. We don't put promo codes all over the web and play a guessing game as to where you can find one. And it's really about what you see is what you get. It's everything at a fair price. And I think that's what people respond to. That's what they love about us. And that really carries through the attitude when you call us on the phone. If you go to a store, everyone is highly trained in our values, what we stand for, and being authentic. And that's what I think you see in the Net Promoter Score.
What do other D2C brands? And by the way, I want to remind everybody, if you have a question, raise your hand, and we'll ping you in to talk to Rich. I know that you talk a lot about delight as an aim of the brand, and investing in delight as opposed to bottom line ROI metrics. Tell us a little bit about what you think other D2Cs miss by narrowly focusing on ROI, and what you mean by delighting your customers.
You know, it's a lot of the little things, because although they add up to something really important. You know, as I mentioned, like a lot of my background when I led marketing for Vivid Seats or Swap.com, which is a clothing marketplace, or when I was at Grubhub, all these different industries, a lot of the role of marketers today, especially in these digital and D2C brands, is around performance. There's a lot of pressure on that point. Boards want to see a return on the investment. They want to allow for little room on brand, but that's kind of a secret mysterious sauce. And what's, I think, really important is that you start to question some of those assumptions, right? We're all evolving as marketers, and I'm certainly on this journey too, where a great specific example would be, although we don't do a lot of promo codes, if we do have some kind of promotion, the old me would be sort of coached into, targeting, a different sort of offer to different people depending on the likelihood of their propensity to repurchase and at what frequency, and how to really intervene kind of surgically to, drive the maximum ROI. But the way we look at it, Tecovas, is more like, if one person hears the day after the sale that they missed out on it, they're going to be unhappy, right? And that's going to drive your net promoter score down. We want everyone to be super happy. We want everyone to feel like we're not playing any games here and gimmicky. And I think we get a little too far ahead of ourselves sometimes as marketers with spreadsheets and losing the humanity of it, because we're all, especially online, we're dealing with numbers and spreadsheets a lot of the time. And so I think just attuning to customers and who they are and what they want, putting that in front, I think is really important.
I think we may have a couple of questions coming in. I think maybe Jim has one. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, I do actually. I'm curious, Rich, kind of the process that you went through for selecting kind of your preferred or premium customer panel. That it sounds like you get a lot of feedback from and generate a lot of discussion with.
Yeah, for sure. So as the company grew, as I mentioned, it really grew organically. So these are people who've raised their hand, who were the first to come into our stores. Really active on Facebook, sharing everything. So they kind of found us, to be honest, and we decided, we should really create a subsection of those fans who were high lifetime value customers and integrate them into our product planning, our campaign planning, our positioning, as we looked at new store openings, that we should involve them, and that's why we call them insiders. So we still have this larger community that we call the enthusiasts, and they operate independently, and it's thousands of people advocating for our brand. But we can source from that group and bring people as an insider based on their lifetime value and get their feedback.
Thank you.
Steve, we are running a little long here, so I think we should, as much as could talk about cowboy boots all the time, I'm definitely a fan.
Rich Lesperance of Tecovas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.